This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And I love that because, it takes almost the same energy and sometimes more. I mean, for so many years in my life, I was so negative thinking. And now I feel like I changed and just try to be more positive thinking.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory, walk. Warning.
This is a public service announcement. The Walk in Victory podcast is where we have conversations purposed to evolve lives. You may not want to evolve. Then tune into another bleeping podcast. Everyone else, enjoy the show. And here's our host.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening and or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory walks, it's funny. You heard that little part that I did, or somebody, a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you be talking too fast." I was like, do that whole pace thing to get people in, and then I slow down, and now here we are. Like, don't worry, we're gonna get there.
Oh, good.
I'm not gonna talk like that the whole way. Listen, I don't even know if I can keep up with that pace. Speaking of keeping up with pace, we are living through a tech boom. Listen to what I'm saying. We are living through a tech boom. During this boom, the last tech boom, I'll start that way. During the last tech boom, millionaires were created that eventually turned into billionaires. We have about a 3.5-year window in order to turn our things around. I'm talking to people, but they're not listening. Even in the religious settings, the world as we know it is never going to be the same after COVID. It took a little bit longer than I anticipated. People are not really going to be doing the brick and mortar things much more. People are not going to be, even socially, is going to be scaled down. If you have too much building, that's why the president making people come back into the building. They have too much building and they're empty. Manhattan has a huge problem. And because the price of real estate per square foot has outpriced the market, and you have a lot of empty spaces. If you ride around and you start looking through your township, you're going to see a lot of stores, businesses that were with closed signs on the door. With the tech boom that we're experiencing, there's still room for creators. There's still going to be actually podcasting. They're saying streaming, and I'm not a big stream person. I like to edit my stuff. I don't like to go in the. I used to do concerts, and before the concert, we would have what we call the full dress rehearsal. With the full dress rehearsal, we're going to go through the concert without. Before we present the concert, we have to go through the concert first and keep all the mistakes and keep moving. We're not going to try to fix anything because and when you're in the concert, you can't stop and fix it. All right, the altos are off. You got to keep going. You try to correct it in flow. So but there's going to be a huge opportunity for creators, content creators, in the landscape of AI, and marrying what we do and what some of the entrepreneurs who may still have the older school mentality need, because there's going to be a gap, a needs gap. And it's going to happen faster than we think. We don't want to be Blockbuster. I don't want none of our listeners to be Blockbuster, but I'm on it. I'm on my own soapbox, and I'm preaching this message. It's happening. It's happening, and we're living in it. We're living in it. It's happening all around us. I was just reading an article online. I think it was Wall Street Journal. The NFL laid off 5,000 people, 500 people, something like that, because those jobs that this AIs and can do, the companies, they're about the bottom line. The days of getting a gold watch for staying loyal to a company have been long over, and now is even faster. So we want to talk to Tom today about how do we marry our message digitally, and we're going to laugh and have some jokes, but we're also going to tell some truths. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing great, man. You had me. I'm listening. I'm digging what you're saying. I'm with you. You know, I got into the internet in 2000, right before the big Y2K. We were building websites back then, man, and it was, we were building people's first websites. And I remember building it was a website for a local place that was selling like meat and cheese gift things, right? And we built our own shopping cart, right? Like, and I was just remembering that when you were talking about that, NaRon, because you couldn't go buy one. That didn't exist. You had to build it yourself, and now, push the fast forward button on everything. But I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think a lot of us lived through this internet, there was no internet when I was a kid, and now there is. And it was one of the biggest things. And you're nailing it on the head when you're saying this is going to be huge. This is going to be way, way bigger than the internet ever was, right? I mean,
Yes. Yeah. Because you've been in radio, you've seen, I'm an avid Howard Stern listener.
yeah.
I'm the one guy.
Well, we used to listen to a lot of Howard Stern when I was in radio because he was doing such things that we wouldn't imagine saying, doing, or anything. And now it's normal, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
just a thing.
And I'm
Yeah.
referencing him because he planted seeds in my head concerning podcasting. And it's, oh man, anybody got a microphone? And I'm like, it was true. And then, so I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. But then if your thought leader is almost necessary. This is the new blog post. This is the new email. You've built websites, and I've been in around that, right? I went to a school, the C+, A+, and all that other stuff back in the day. You've seen the rise of the website. You've seen the transition where you needed a network, or a coder, and now everything is built out for you, and it took away that job. What are you anticipating now, and what are you saying to people as they prepare?
Yeah, my message for people in 2025, I work with a lot of businesses, right? So what I tell them is that 2025 is your year to look in. Look at yourself, look at your business, get your processes down. What do you do? Do you know what you do? Do you know how you do? Get your systems documented, get your process flows documented. So what do you use each system for? And then take it all the way down to that SOP or that literal like document level of how do you do what you do. And that's what you need to do this year. In 2025, you got to figure out how, what you do, the who, what, where, when, why. Maybe we go back to that, right? And if you can figure that out in 2025, you're going to be set up really, really well for 2026. And to your point, we have 3 years, 25, 26, 27. 27 is going to be mind blowing. If you're not ready for this by then, it's just going to literally run right by you, right? And so that's kind of my message is you look in 2025 so you can look out in 2025 so you can explode in 2027 or excuse me. Look in 2025, look out in 2026, AI automation so you can explode in 2027.
When you got into radio,
Mm-hmm.
what was the emphasis? What was the thing that drove you that you got the voice, but besides that,
That's because of all the long nights, Rod. It wasn't because I had it before. No, no, no.
I
It was fun,
understand.
like we had a good time. It was funny because I would call radio back, and this was in the late 90s, in the 90s when I was doing this. And I would call it the social media of the day, right?
That's right.
That's what we did. People call us. We were, saying things. They were doing this. We'd go out. We had these remotes. So the car dealer would pay. You'd be there and you'd be talking on the radio. Come on down and check out this brand new car, like, you know, but that's what we were, right? And then people would show up like, but that's no different than these influencers of today on social, right? We're paying people to talk about things or be in places, and so it was like that. It was wild. We were just kind of grit. We used to call it guerrilla marketing. We didn't spend a lot of money. We just did a lot of talking. I was part of the promotions department. So I called it, we go down to the big sticker shop and, this was before there was such a thing as a wrap. They didn't have no wraps on any
That's
cars,
yeah.
and I said, "I wanna put stickers on this truck," and they're like, "Well, what are you talking about?" I said, "Think about what you'd do if you're in a carnival." I said, "That's how big I want them." And I said, "Carnival style, baby." So, we had a truck that was just plaster. We had an ambulance that we painted. It was a rock station, and it was it was huge, people just didn't know what to do. That was wild, and so that's what it was, right? And you can see it coming down the pipe, and you're right. It's niche, niche, niche now, right? I mean, we have the opportunity. I heard a stunning statistic the other day, and it was 20 million, 20 billion hours is watched on people's TVs on YouTube in a week.
Mhm.
And that's not talking about just people on their computer. I mean, literally on their TV, bringing up YouTube as that source, and all these things have to exist. And everyone can see the things that they want to, right? Your algorithm starts to look at all the things that you like, and I love your analogy when you said doing that run through. I was in plays and I was in some jazz choirs and choir, and you're right. There's no going back when it's live. I mean,
Oh,
we were
no.
talking about this on my motorcycle podcast even the other day. I was Tevye in the Fiddler on the Roof, and there were some things that happened when it was going down. And what do? You got to stay in role. You got to stay in character, right? I mean, whatever happens, you got to kind of keep up with it. And I love that analogy. And that's what's happening with AI and automation. You got to stay with it. It's not going away.
What I would suggest to people, because there's so much happening, right? Like I was a big user. What everything was coming out, I was trying to keep up, and I'm taking classes trying to learn. So I took this prompt engineering course, and so I understand prompt engineering and the mechanisms behind it. Because I'm not the type that can look at a YouTube channel. I could look at a YouTube channel and get direction, but I'm not the type that can.
Right.
I need to be. I like to be. I want to know. Yeah, I want to be in it. I want to make
Me
my own mistakes. I don't want somebody to dumb it down for me in their language. But what did was I said, okay, I can't do everything. Right. I need to learn what platform worked for me. So I started just using Chat GPT. And then it started advancing, and that was good for me. Right. But then when Gemini came out, and what Google is doing, oh man. So now between ChatGPT and Gemini, then it was Google Advanced or something like that.
Yeah, I forget what they call that.
Yeah, so so those are my platforms. Now I'm looking at agents and how I teach marketing and stuff like that. So I'm using my brain and I'm going to build an agent to help people build their businesses. So really they have this agent in their pocket, right?
Yeah.
This is where we are. You don't need to sell courses to to bend people's arm to get on a call, but there's ways to that.
Well, imagine my agent start talking to your agent, and that's kind of a funny Hollywood joke, right? But that's what's going to happen.
Also,
You and I went through some time to figure out a time that worked, and one time didn't, and we screwed up. And but that would have all just happened, right? Like, hey, you're not going to make your call today. I'm just going to go ahead and call NaRon's agent, make sure that he knows that you're not going to make it today, because he, that agent knew that I wasn't going to make it. Like these things seem far fetched and weird, but that's exactly how this is going to work. And I think it's going to be so interesting. And I know people get scared about it, but
I'm
this
excited.
it's me too, me too, me too. But I think people think that, if we reflect back to that year 2000, there was no such thing as social media quite yet, right? And, that's the thing. We can't even imagine the jobs and the things that will materialize because of this. There wasn't such a thing as an influencer in the year 2000. And here we are 4 years later, and it's maybe one of the up and rising, my accountant locally here said she has 2 people that are influencers, and they make a good money, and that's what she's like, I wouldn't have believed it if you told me that 5 years ago that,
Listen,
I
let me
was
tell
going to
you,
be representing. Yeah.
Dancing with the Stars. How about you Dancing with the Stars? Just sometimes I just like to see what's gonna go on, and they're like, "Oh, this person has 1 million followers on Instagram." I'm like, "But that's so they're starting."
Well, you look at Ayana Mar, right? The rugby person. What crazy, awesome story, right? And now that whole piece got her to be playing rugby over in Europe in that league. And wow. I mean, I'm intrigued. She's an interesting person. I like to listen to what she says. I didn't even know that, this level of rugby was existing on this earth until her,
Her, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm in from Iowa here. So, we're literally sitting, I'm 12 minutes from where Caitlin Clark played at college basketball, unbelievable story, right? It's just such an interesting thing that can just materialize here, right? I mean, and what is the next thing that's going to materialize? Who knows? It's going to be way interesting to watch.
And I'm glad that you are been in radio, so you can pivot and you can understand these conversations because what I'm about to ask you. Well, from the outside looking in, the impact that Caitlin Clark had on women's basketball, NCAA, and how it translated to the WNBA, and how she's getting so much hate and pushback. Them women should be kissing her feet because they're about to get paid because of her.
Right. And just look at the repercussions, right? Like, just look at the number of events that got sold out and the number of people now that selling popcorn at those. I mean, it's so levels deep, and I think that's the thing you're missing out on and how some of this is going to affect the ripple effect, maybe we call it,
Mhm.
of this AI automation in the future. I think it's just so amazing. It's unfathomable, unless you're some mind reading guru guy that can figure this out. I mean, I'm just sitting there watching, just like, what's next? Like, how could this possibly be better? But, you know, Elon Musk is building robots for home, right? I mean, like, this is going to be wild.
Yeah. When I was a little boy, they had a show called The Jetsons, and I remember watching flying cars and all those other things. The Rosie, the electronic
Yep.
robot,
The
and
maid or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
and I remember watching. I was like, I don't think that's going to really happen. But whoever did this had a great imagination, and now to actually be living in that time, it's at first I was a little, as most people are, we're afraid of the unknown. It can be a little spooky, but we've always had technology. You being a guy who built websites, most people think that the best part of the websites are the things that we see in the front end, but it's really the automation, the things in the back end, the SEO, the things that really make the site rank. The reason why I would have to call you back and say, hey man, last week I was on page 1 and now I'm on I can't be found, because the words change and all that. And those are secrets that you kept to yourself because that's how you kept working.
That's
Now where we are, how is what is your message? You're going on podcast, you're talking to people. What is your message and what is the thing that you're saying right now?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the fact that, like trying to get people to think about themselves so that they can get their house in order, shall we call it, like we talked about already. For me, I think just don't be surprised at what's going to happen because,
Mhm.
I think when I talk to people about technology, I always say like, you wouldn't have believed it in the 1900 that I was going to tell you there's a large cigar that's going to be up in the air shooting through, there, and I'm going to get you from LA to New York in 5 hours. That's going to happen within 30 or 40, whatever, let's call it 50 years. They would have said I was crazy, or that I could take a deck of playing cards, hold it up to my ear, and be talking to someone anywhere in the world without wires, and they would just say, "What are you talking about? That's not possible, right?" And I just think of the word impossible, and it's such a barrier. I think it puts a mental block. So I think we got to think about what do you want to happen? Because I think these are the things that can happen, and I think just removing those thoughts of negativity in your mind is probably the best thing you can do. Because somehow, some way, I mean, we look at now how these algorithms are now like taking all these proteins, and they're coming up with new medicines and new drugs because it sees what other drugs are like, and it says, well, this is really close, let's try it. And how much speed it's brought to some of this medicine. And you just think, we know so little about the human body right now. Like, we just don't know anything. Like, we treat symptoms, we don't treat the things that are happening. We continue to chase symptoms. And I don't know, I think the same thing's going to happen in our businesses, in our world. Like, these problems are going to be a lot easier to solve when we kind of have these agents, and when something knows everything about you and you stop being freaked out about that. you know they say that like Google has 17,000 ways to track your phone angles, you know every movement and all these things. And even though it's creepy, when you get a good advertisement that's given to you, you buy the thing. Like, I don't know why I bought this thing off the TikTok shop. Well, because they nailed you. They got you in their algorithm, right? And it is creepy, but it's still marketing and it still can happen. And I think if we think of it holistically, like, instead of, you and me meeting somehow because we just want to do this podcast together, it's like, man, it'd have been cool if my agent would have found you. There's this guy, NaRon, you need to meet him. Like, he's so much cool like like, or, he's got something to share, and you guys, you don't know what, it's like the best match.com that's ever existed or something, right? I mean, like,
Yeah.
there's so many people in this world that I'm sure that I would just enjoy, but I never have a chance to meet them, right? So I don't know. If we think of all these angles that this could bring, just cool things to, it's just missing.
For me, pre-COVID, I was begging people to come on to my podcast. Literally. Like searching New York. Hey man, I got a little podcast. You want to come on and have a conversation?
And after
Oh,
you get to finding what a podcast is to them,
hey, look. Oh, you doing that? You wasting your time doing that little thing? Post-COVID, and thanks to PodMatch, when COVID hit, we started doing everything with Zoom. So I didn't know anything about it, just a Zoom.
yeah,
Zooms. It's like the best thing that really happened because I can have a conversation with people. Whereas before I felt like I needed to be in the presence of someone and get that energy up, get that that thing, that magic that happens when you're doing a interview or having a conversation with somebody, that spark. Then you learn how to have these conversations, and it's almost like speaking to a cousin that lives in another state, and every time you all talk, it's just fun and magical. But I get to do it and look you in your eye and
yeah.
and
Well, we take it to the next step. Meta's been working so much on this VR, and eventually that's what this will be, right? It will be like literally sitting here. And, I mean, I don't know if you've used the Oculus headsets
yes,
before,
I
but
did.
it's so wild. Have you ever done the Star Wars game? Like, there's
I sucked at the football game.
I didn't
because
even try that.
it's really, so you're in the simulation with the football. You're the quarterback, and you really have to throw. If you don't throw, the ball's going to hit the floor. If you don't, it's like they've gotten the movements and emotions down so right that you almost, if the guy's running a post or a slant, and if you 2 seconds late, you're going to throw an interception.
Right.
The windows are so small and tight. It's amazing
It's
how
pretty amazing.
they're using simulation, even with so I teach mindfulness in yoga, and when we talk about visualization, so if like Tiger Woods, LeBron James, and all those guys are really high on visualization, like visualize the game before it start, and they put themselves in the game in tight situations. LeBron had a problem closing games out early in his career, and that's when he adapted that model and style. But now imagine your daughter's going for SATs, and you can put her through a simulation if she has get nervous taking the test, and you get her through those anxiousness, and it can read when her pressure is getting anxious, or when she's going up, or when this is where we're headed.
I just remember the first time I played the Star Wars game at the Oculus, and I lifted my hand up, and there's a lightsaber in this gloved hand, and my brain did not know that that wasn't happening right then. You watch these videos of these people that walk that plank. There's the walk the plank. They are convinced, right? I mean, the funniest one, right, is some dude rams into the TV every time, and he wasn't thinking that he was doing that. He was completely in it. And I think of what you said with the yoga and the mindfulness, and I think, wow, how great is that? Like, we can put someone in a place where is just perfect for them. And then now you add in, the technology that's coming, and that can evolve immediately based on the results, kind of like you were saying. I mean, if you start to get nervous, we're just going to throw you a little more stuff that makes you calm down. And I think we're going to be better people as it goes. I really do.
It's funny that you would say that can you imagine that technology can help people advance?
It's unbelievable. I know for a while Walmart was even using it to like help train people. So you can do it over and over and over again. There's no mistakes. It's no waste. It's just so exciting.
So as you're looking in, what does that look like for you when we talk about the first step that you're training people to do to look in? What does that look like for you and all podcasts and all the things that you're doing?
Yeah. Ask that question a different way. I want to make sure I'm answering you correctly, because I
You
just
said
want to make sure.
2025, we should be looking in.
And, from a bit, it may be easy to talk about from a business standpoint.
Mhm.
Map out what you're looking for, right? So what are all the systems that you're using? So, map that out. If you're using Microsoft 365 and you're using NetSuite, Oracle, let's map those out. And then from that, what are we using each one of those systems for? So I call that process flows. So, for Microsoft 365, we use it for email, we use it for note taking, and we use it for, project management. And so now we break each one of those three down and we say, how do we do each one of those things in there? Because people are never trained on your business. No one says, hey, NaRon, here's how you use email. When did you ever get someone to ever tell you how to use email? No, you just throw people in and assume they know. Well, there's 100 different ways to do it, right? So I think when you systematize, when you use system thinking, that gets you thinking about your business and how it works. And when you think about your business or you think about your life and you build systems around that, I think you would say that if people were consistent in the way they use their mindfulness or yoga or meditation, if that's on a consistent at the same time, on the same time of day, that it's probably more successful. So if we think about 2025 being the time to kind of get all of that stuff in order, then 2026, when these agents and AI and automation is here really, really digging in, now I can kind of say, here's my system, help me be the best I can be, right? So now it can take my system, whether that be in business or my mindfulness system, and it can really just be that helper. And I think you're going to see that. But now if in 2026, I don't know what my system is, that's going to be harder to get traction when it comes to those things. So
Yeah, it's good that you said that, because a lot of times people don't understand, and that's as I'm going through building this of agents, right? That's the first thing that I had to do. It's like I have to get the person, the end user, to understand all of the things. The reason why a lot of people say social media marketing don't work is because they never really understood all of the steps that it took in order to make the social media marketing work. They didn't understand the difference between boosting a post on Facebook and going to Meta Business or Facebook Business Suite and actually doing a longer form post and targeting your customers and doing a customer advertise, like all of those other steps. So they just like, oh, I'm not trying to sell, but trying to get an email, like all of the little nuances. So how are people responding to your message of get prepared by look at? Have you seen so far?
Well, they're freaking out at first, right? Because I think they think it sounds great at first, but then I think they realize how much they don't know. And I mean, in my days in web and knowing, I was never really in charge of digital marketing, but I saw a lot of it, right? And I think it's easy to say, oh, this is working for us, right? Well, yeah, it was easy when Google was 5 cents a click, but now it's way more than that. And so if you don't have that targeted messages, you can't overcome, $1.50 a click because every click counts. So I think what happens, the first thing is people are shocked that they literally maybe don't know why they're being successful. They don't know why their business is working. And I think there's a lot of talk about, like, there's a great book, John Warlow. It's called Built to Sell. If your business is always ready to be sold, then it's probably in a really good place to be successful. You don't have to sell it, but if someone comes in and says, "Hey, I'm going to buy your podcast, NaRon. Tell me how you do," and you say, "Well, on Tuesdays most of the time is when I record, and then I throw it out maybe by Friday, but sometimes it's Saturday." I'm thinking, well, how could I buy that and then replicate what you're doing? I can't. This is about you. It's not about the system. So if you can find a way to build that system, well, Tuesdays I schedule a guest. Wednesdays we cut the video, and then on Thursday I got a group of people that not only do they edit it, but then they break down the clips. And that's why you see me all around the web, and that's why it's entertaining, and that's how I drive traffic. Those are two very different things. And if people don't know what it takes to get from A to Z, they're going to be in trouble. And I think we've seen that. I think some of these businesses are just successful because they were just there, right? They're habitual. And I think, like you had mentioned over COVID, we broke a lot of habits then. I mean, my wife would not order online like she does now. She would not order online. And now you can barely get her to go to the store.
I don't
So,
trust the people with my card. For me, I was like, I like to feel it. I like to go into this, but it's called neural pathways, right? So we have
yeah,
certain ways that we think and process, and everybody's pathway is different, right? Some people, me, I would like to be in the store. I like to Christmas time. I like to hear the Christmas.
absolutely.
I like that energy. COVID didn't allow for that. I remember I was doing a meditation training in Manhattan, and this is when it was like, oh, after XYZ, the city is about to shut down. And that's the first time I've ever been in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan. And I got off the train and I didn't see one person on the street. It was
One of the
eerie.
most busiest places on at least in the US.
It was eerie. I called my wife. I was like, I don't know what's about to happen, but whatever's about to happen, it's going to be longer than 2 weeks. Longer than 2 weeks. So that's living through that. We've been able to live through some very historic times where people are going to look back and this stuff is going to be in the history books, and I hope they're capturing it properly. I'm also going to say something to people that's listening to this is probably going to blow your mind. I'm not trying to be Nostradamus or anything. Social media is about to take a huge transformation. You think you was crying because TikTok changed or it was banned for 12 hours or 3 hours or whatever it was. This new change, this new shift, for those who are prepared, business-wise, influencer-wise, They're gonna see the influx. And just because you're not prepared don't mean that you can't get into it and thrive
That's
later.
correct.
But those who are prepared are gonna be on the front end of it. And we're
You know,
talking about it here.
it
Yeah,
takes you 10 years to be an overnight success, right? I mean, nobody sees what you did before that one thing hit, right?
yeah. Yeah, it was like, hey, Michael Jordan, you could fly through the air. Work that he put in. They saw the guy riding out of the stadium with the cigar, or the
Well, and that guy would probably one of the most famous people to have the failures, right? Like, how many other NBA guys got kicked off their high school team? Probably very few to none, right? I
mm-hmm,
mean, to have the
mm-hmm.
perseverance to come back and say, no, 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 I'm okay with this. Like I can do this. Like that is huge. I
Yeah,
mean,
because by the time you're in high school, right, you should know that you're better than everybody in your high school.
well, and the sad part for me and Iran is how many people quit before they were Michael Jordan, right? Like how many guys just didn't have it or gals just didn't see it and quit. So the best whatever of all time never made it because they got, picked on or had a bad day that one day and that made them stop doing the thing.
Or they were in it, and the only reason why Kobe and LeBron didn't get along is because Kobe said Kobe and Shaq, Kobe and LeBron, Kobe
Yes.
and Shaq didn't get along because Kobe said Shaq was lazy and he was wasting his talent. Same reason why Kobe and Dwight didn't get along. Said you're wasting your talent. Big is not you're bigger than everybody. So yeah, but if you just put in a little bit of work, and that's what
Yeah.
we're saying today, right?
I think so.
That's your muscle.
Yeah. It's something. I mean, and you gotta you should be proud of it, right? I mean, like own it. I don't know. And you said it earlier and I was just listening because you were talking in such it was great. I didn't want to interrupt, but I mean, you just gotta sometimes you're gonna run into that speed bump and you gotta go over it and it's scary, right? Like imposter syndrome, I can't do this, but boy, is the next thing after that just seems like it never hurts as much as you kind of imagine it will. And it really just unbelievable.
So as we go to our close, thank you for spending this time with me. This was very
Oh
entertaining.
my gosh, it's been great.
Oh, you've mentioned several careers. You've been in radio, you built websites, you've been an entrepreneur for a long time. What is your formula for getting over those humps? What do you do when you feel like quitting?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm a religious guy, so I kind of just reflect. I kind of pray and say, and I kind of end up thinking, how bad is it, right? Like, how bad can this possibly be? If I'm a little bit embarrassed or if I'm a little bit this or that, I think about the times when I didn't do it and what that felt like. And I think about the times that I did do it and it worked great. I think we're our own worst enemies so many times. And I think there's just so much power and energy out there, no matter what, belief system you believe in, boy. It just seems like it really is there if you believe in yourself. And I
Mhm.
love when you're talking about motivation and positivity. And I mean, I think the quote is whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And I love that because like it takes almost the same energy and sometimes more. I mean, for so many years in my life, I was so negative thinking. And now I feel like I changed and just try to be more positive thinking, just try to think, well, I'll give it a try. And if it doesn't work, we'll try something else. Right. I mean, like
It's
nobody grows want to be, well, there's a couple of those guys that are they want to be on every podcast that they can. But I mean, it's people don't think they sound right. They don't think they look right. And I don't know, like, those people are the only ones that are worried about it, I think most of the time. You got those haters out there, the commenters and whatever, but for the most time, this has been a wonderful experience for me. I just love talking to you. It's so much fun talking to people and learning about them and thinking about different things. I mean, it makes your mind grow.
when I would describe when people ask me, "Do you have a list of questions? I want to be prepared." I was like, think about it as two people catching the flight and they happen to be at the airport, sitting down, having a beer, and they just strike up a conversation. They just realize that they got so much in common, and oh man, it's a great conversation. And you go your way, and
Yeah, I love that. I mean, joy and experience in life, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's just that's probably one of the things I love about the internet is just you can see a little bit of everything out there if you choose to find it, and some of it's good and some of it's weird, and it's all good. But I'm a car loving. My dad was an old Volkswagen mechanic, so I love VWs, and boy, oh boy, you can just see anything you want to out there, and no matter where you are or who you are, it seems like we all have common threads, and I love that part about it all.
I will say this as we go, people. I told you we sit you at the feet of the masters. We have conversations to help you evolve your life. Um, if you open up your phone and all you're seeing is a negative, that means that you're searching for negative because the algorithm is going to give you what you are looking for. Me, I got a lot of sports, affirmations, and stuff like that, and definitely a lot of podcasts. Tom, what books have influenced you that you recommend over the course of your career? It doesn't have to be something that you just read, and it can be fiction or nonfiction.
One good nonfiction one that I read about 5 or 6 years ago, it's probably more than that, is called Autonomous. And it was kind of before all this AI stuff coming. And it just talks about it's just a sci-fi world and how we're going to interact with robots that are full robots, full combinations of robots. So I love that one. It's called Autonomous. On the business side, I really like the built to sell systems thinking kind of things. I like Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. If
Yeah,
you've
I like
checked
that one.
checked his book out, it does reframe things, right? It allows you to kind of go in there and really help people out. So I'd say those three are really good ones.
Listen, everyone, we don't ask you for Cash App, Venmos, donations, or any of those things. But what we do ask is that you hit that subscribe button. That helps these conversations get heard. We took a little dip in the beginning of the year, after Thanksgiving and after Christmas and the new year. So let's get it back up. Let's get it going. Secondly, if you're listening on a platform where you can leave a comment, please do. Also, or you can go to our website, walkinvictory.me, where you can leave a comment there. And that helps drive traffic to the website. We have some exciting things coming up, and we're always looking to continue to walk in victory. Don't walk with your head down. Don't walk making excuses. Don't walk missing this opportunity because you're afraid. Get your coach. Tom's information is in the description. You can reach out to him and his team, and he'll help you if you're a business owner and you want to be prepared for this great opportunity for wealth. Uh, don't miss it. Let's do it right now and take that step. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.